The rafts on the sea are filled with seafood. They are placed in natural waters. This is where fishermen can raise seafood. This method is becoming increasingly popular due to its cost effectiveness, ease of administration, and potential for high yields. In today's video, we will learn how fishermen raise and harvest millions of tons of seafood in cages. First, we come to the salmon farm. Salmon are raised in water up to 25 meters deep to maintain temperatures at 15 to 18 degrees Celsius. It takes 20 months to grow salmon weighing 200 grams into adult salmon weighing 5 kilograms, equivalent to salmon import. Healthy adult salmon are selected for breeding based on size growth rate and disease resistance. The fertilized eggs are gently incubated into a controlled environment. At the same time, water temperature and oxygen levels are carefully monitored for salmon growth. Throughout the breeding process, the focus is on disease prevention and environmental sustainability. In addition, salmon populations must be kept healthy and safe. The egg incubation period is an important stage in the life cycle of salmon. The eggs are carefully incubated to ensure a successful hatching and early development. These trays provide a controlled environment. Oxygen levels are maintained during the egg incubation period, which can last several weeks depending on environmental conditions. Water temperatures are typically within a specific range, simulating the conditions of naturally spawning salmon. Temperature ranges may vary by species, but for cold water salmon species, temperatures are typically between 6 and 12 degrees Celsius in order to avoid fluctuations that can cause stress. As baby salmon grow, they change to prepare for their migration out to sea, a process called molting. Juvenile salmon are transferred to cages in coastal waters. They continue to develop and mature until they are ready for market. Fishermen equip a recirculating aquaculture system, providing ample space for growth and movement of salmon. Salmon health parameters such as oxygen levels, temperature, salinity, and nutrients are regularly monitored and controlled in order to prevent disease outbreaks caused by environmental stress and degradation. Salmon are fed a specialized diet for optimal growth. Fishermen optimize environmental conditions in salmon farming facilities such as water flow speed. Adjusting stocking density and site selection can help minimize salmon stress and increase meat quality. Now let's go to the lobster farm. Fishermen will stock lobsters at a density of 8 lobsters per square meter. Young lobsters have a survival rate of less than 50%. If good husbandry methods and nutrition are applied, the survival rate, when grown commercially, will always be above 90%. They are shrimp that can reach a weight of up to 1.3 kilograms. Farmed lobster are fed entirely with trash fish. The bait must be fresh. Fishermen often feed the lobsters right after catching fish every morning. Besides, you can combine the diet with other types of fresh seafood and mineral mixtures. The cage design allows optimal air circulation, helping lobsters to grow better. Cages can also minimize disease and environmental pollution. Besides this, the underwater cage model can prevent deforestation to build wooden cages, and fishermen do not need to worry when encountering heavy rain or thunderstorms. However, the mesh surrounding the cage is relatively fine, so a significant portion of uneaten food remains in the cage. Fishermen observed and inspected a cage from 10 AM to 5 PM. There is a large amount of waste. This is not conducive to water hygiene or the health of the lobsters, and the fishermen need to clean them up. In addition, lobster cage locations must have a good quality water, but not strong currents. It takes about 6 months for a young lobster to reach a commercial size of 200 grams, and it takes about 8 months for a lobster to reach 350 grams. Atlantic bluefin tuna are prized for sushi, but their commercial importance has attracted overfishing, and populations have plummeted by as much as 80% in some areas of the Atlantic Western Ocean. When the tuna are raised in closed tanks, fewer wild Atlantic bluefin tuna are caught for consumption, reducing the pressure on the marine fish stocks. We are now looking at large cages at a tuna farm off the coast of Croatia. Tuna farming and fishing generates an annual export value of between 70 and 80 million US dollars and creates valuable employment opportunities for coastal communities. In Japan, there are more than 100 large and small-scale tuna farms across the country. Takashima Farm is a premium Japanese producer of bluefin tuna. Here, they are raised with carefully selected food and kept in organized cages. Tuna is a large fish that needs to swim continuously and has a high need for oxygen. Therefore, it is important to keep them in a sturdy, spacious cage. Tuna cages are located in nutrient-rich waters at a depth of at least 50 meters. These areas must have a flow greater than 10 centimeters per second, with a salinity range of 36 to 39 ppt. The spawning cycle begins with transferring adult fish into the breeding cage. The breeding period lasts in the summer from May to August. Typically, tuna are raised in net cages in the ocean for 3 to 4 years until they reach a weight of around 110 to 132 pounds. For tuna farmers, a major concern is high feed conversion rates. On average, 15 to 20 kilograms of feed are needed to produce 1 kilogram of tuna. This number is significantly higher than many other farm fish species. Tuna are usually fed 1 to 3 times a day. The amount of food depends on the size, temperature of the sea, and reaction to food. Based on the preferences of wild tuna, farm tuna are fed a special diet that includes fresh sardines and anchovies. In New England, summer is the time when oyster farmers work hard on the farm to prepare their young oysters to head out to sea. Net cages are responsible for growing the oysters and keeping them safe from drifting away or touching the seabed. Cages need to have a fairly stable bottom as they are quite heavy and can sink into the mud if the bottom is too soft. Fishermen use cages when the oysters are very small and are not ready yet to be raised in the wild. This gives them more protection than open water and more space to grow. The cage area should be at least 1 foot deep, even in harsh conditions. This prevents the oysters from suffocating in mud or freezing in the winter. Oyster cages are kept clean by fishermen. During warm weather, from May to September, fishermen may need to clean oysters every 2 weeks. Fishermen will shake the cage to remove sediment and fake feces. Besides this, when using a floating cage system to raise oysters on the water surface, fishermen also have to fight against biological fouling. Turning the cage regularly will expose the top side of the cage to the sun, drying out any buildup on that side of the cage. At the same time, it inhibits the growth of organisms attached to the cage. Oysters are an important part of the ecosystem. They act as natural filters for water. At the same time, the development of commercial oyster farming also brings positive impacts to the natural environment. Typically, oysters taste great in February or March. Tokara's coastline is rich in ocean currents, making it one of the best oyster producing areas in Japan. Oysters are a species that feed by filtering the water column. With this special growth method, sometimes reducing the scale of farming will bring better results. Fishermen can significantly limit the number of cages they have. The goal is to reduce the burden on the environment and produce sustainably. With fewer cages, each oyster can now receive all the nutrients it needs and growth rates increase significantly. Previously, it took a year of growth for an oyster to reach 15 grams, and now they weigh 20 grams in just 4 months. What is surprising is that the oysters have become softer and more delicious. Fisheries and Oceans Canada is partnering with the aquaculture industry with the goal of helping it operate in a sustainable and responsible manner. Hidden deep under the ice and snow of the cold seas is the habitat of many rare seafood species. Brave fishermen every day navigate their boats through thick layers of ice in order to catch fish. In today's video, we will explore challenging journeys and interesting stories about seafood fishing in icy seas. Cod fishing is one of the oldest traditional fisheries. The waters off Block Island are great for cod fishing in the winter. This is because they hold a lot of bait and have extremely well-structured terrain. Fishing is typically done at depths of 90 to 130 feet. Regardless of the means of fishermen use, commercial fishing in winter is one of the most dangerous jobs. This is because boats are susceptible to freezing in harsh winter weather. Significant ice accumulation ranges from 1/4 of an inch to an inch per hour. Fishermen must slow down and change directions in order to reduce ice buildup. They also must remove ice while moving, and this can also reduce risk. When fishing in tropical waters, fishermen do not expose cod to direct sunlight. They are stored in the coolest place immediately after catching. Cooling helps to slow down spoilage and also prevents the blood from coagulating too quickly and reducing the quality of the meat. However, when fishing in cold waters, fishermen do not have to worry about environmental temperature affecting the quality of cod. After bringing the fish onto the boat, the fishermen start cutting off the heads and gutting the cod as soon as possible. This not only ensures a continuous supply to the freezer, but also reduces the rate of cod spoilage. Liver is also discarded by the fishermen. This is because it contains very perishable fats that can go rancid even at low temperatures. After being gutted, the cod are placed in a cold water tank where they are given a final rinse. The cod is rapidly frozen and stored at low temperatures on board. Therefore, there is no limit on fishing time. This increases the time spent in the fishing grounds and improves the economics of fishing. It also allows the fish to be distributed to a wider market and remain in top condition. Fishermen not only fish on cold seas, they also fish on ice. Traditionally, ice fishing involves drilling a hole, hanging bait, and hoping active fish will follow the line. But how do fishermen know the range of fish behind the thick layer of ice? Although electronics have been refined and optimized for ice hunting, there is still the challenge of determining where and when the fish are approaching the bait. Thanks to live scan sonar, a chart plotter combined with the live system helps fishermen easily locate fish and see them swimming below in real time. This means fishermen will spend less time drilling through ice and more time catching fish. Yellow perch anglers often drill ice 4 to 5 centimeters in diameter because the fish are light in weight. Anglers of larger fish, such as salmon, often use an ice auger that will create a larger hole, making it easier to pull large-scale fish out of the ice hole. For ice fishermen, punching holes or drilling by hand is quite strenuous. Instead, fishermen can choose an expensive electric drill that will provide maximum speed and convenience. When choosing this method, fishermen must consider weight and portability because the drill may be limited in some waters. Most fish will be found near the bottom, so it's important to probe the ice hole to know how deep to set your bait. Depending on the swimming tendency of each fish species, fishermen have a suitable way to place bait near the bottom or just below the ice. Besides this, fishermen need to keep their bait fresh because a live fish is always more attractive than a dead one. They will always be careful and check the ice hole at least every 30 minutes. This will ensure that the ice holes are not frozen and are in good working order. Carrying equipment to fishing locations is also a difficult problem. Fishermen must use snowmobiles specifically designed for moving on ice. The canopy blocks the wind, making ice fishing more comfortable. There are many types of ice fishing shelters, from simple windbreaks to mobile homes. To fish safely, fishermen must constantly check the thickness of the ice when moving away from shore and wear a buoyancy jacket. They never venture out on the ice alone and always carry a length of rope. They also avoid areas that can absorb heat from the sun and weaken the ice. Now we come to the ships that operate at sea for 3 to 4 weeks before returning to shore. These are the king crab fishing vessels. Fishermen willing to take risks, king crab fishing teams prefer to stay close to the ice edge. This is because king crabs prefer freezing water temperatures. King crabs live around the Adak Islands at depths of 600 to 1600 feet. Fishermen must mark the depth of each trap with a buoy for identification. These fishing vessels typically range from 50 to 300 feet in length. They are equipped with large hydraulic systems to raise and lower crab traps weighing up to 700 pounds. These hydraulic systems are also designed to withstand Alaska's cold weather. Depending on the size of the fishing boat, teams will have between 150 and 300 traps per boat. Larger fishing boats, 100 feet or longer, average around 250 crab traps. After 1 to 2 days at sea, the trap is returned to the boat. In addition to the hydraulic system, fishermen must also assist in this process. Crab traps are uploaded onto the general classification area, where sailors identify king crabs according to the regulations. Fishermen must meet a number of legal requirements surrounding king crab size and fishing seasons. Only male king crabs can be kept and quotas are strictly enforced. The box-shaped trap is made from a steel frame and covered with steel mesh to increase the quality from each catch. However, in freezing weather, the ship, equipment and crab traps all freeze. Fishermen must constantly break the layers of the ice on the sides of boats and fishing tools. This will help them to stay safe during fishing. In addition, the Fisheries Commission also encourages vessels to limit crab traps in icy conditions, as this reduces the surface area that can accumulate ice. The average quota per boat is £124,000, with a total revenue of approximately $868,000. The payment to each fisherman working on the trip was approximately $43,400 USD. In general, this is a profession that brings high income but also brings many dangers. According to statistics from the Department of Labor, Alaska king crab fishing is the profession with the highest death rate. Main causes of death include hypothermia or drowning. Crew members were also seriously injured or killed by the heavy equipment used to catch king crab or the dangers of ice accumulating on the boat. The North Atlantic and Arctic are home to some of the world's best seafood, among them cold water shrimp. The cold environments in the northern regions creates perfect living conditions for this wild shrimp. Cold water shrimp populations stretch from Canada in the west to the Barents Sea in the east. Cold water shrimp grow extremely slowly, so the shrimp have firmness, bright pink colour, and a pleasant, sweet flavour. Marine shrimp fishing takes place in remote areas during harsh weather conditions that require sturdy ships to be able to cope with the challenge. About 2 to 4 hours after pulling the net, the shrimp are released into the hold, where a conveyor belt leads them to a buffer tank below deck. After being classified, shrimp that meet the standards will be cooked or stored at -21°C in the ship's hold. Once back on land, the ships will take their catch to processing plants. Here, fresh frozen shrimp are gently thawed and distributed to the market. Cooked shrimp are peeled, packaged, and shipped to customers around the world.